Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Way of the Sensitive. I'm your host, Cara Wilde. This is a podcast for those of us who feel called to live in a different way, to create a new society where diversity and uniqueness is celebrated, not shamed. We're the channels of the light, co-creating a heaven on earth upon this beautiful planet. We're here to live and achieve our soul's goals in this lifetime. To us, it's not woo, it's real. Calling all the magic makers, the mystics, the empaths, the sensitives, the starseeds, the artistic, autistic ones, sometimes sidelined, sometimes scapegoated, but we know that we're here to create new pathways in the one mind, because it's not just about traversing alternative dimensions, it's also about landing and being fully alive in this gorgeous world. Hey sensitive soul, and this episode is focused on Lucy Pearce. Lucy is the author of 6 non-fiction books for women, all of which explore what it means to be a sensitive woman in the world in a way that readers find deeply touching. Life-changing is a phrase that is regularly used about her work. Now, we dive deeply into Lucy's latest book, Full Circle Health, but we also talk about the link between suppressed creativity and anxiety and depression, and how Lucy's own journey to become a writer was in fact a way that she found to help navigate herself out of anxiety and depression and write the book that she was really desperate to read. And we go on to talk about Full Circle Health, her latest book, and Lucy's put together this fascinating mapping system for the soul. Any of you that are familiar with Bullet Journal will kind of know what I'm coming from. It's bullet journaling for the soul as far as I'm concerned. So Lucy's whole work is about working in cycles rather than linear progression, and really getting to understand our own cycles of energy, health and well-being, productivity, all areas of your life really. And she's created this way of charting each of the different areas of your life so that you can then take a step back and get an overview of the unique support systems that you need in place for your individuality. Instead of trying to conform to a specific way of doing anything, this helps you tap into your unique cycle and all the unique support that you need. So plenty to take in, plenty to think about. Let me know any ahas or insights that you have in the Facebook group, and enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to, I think this is show 6. Yes, this is show 6 on the podcast, The Way of the Sensitive. And today we have Lucy Pearce. Hello, Lucy. Thanks so much for joining us. So I've already introduced Lucy, and she is, when I went onto her website and saw there's a book, actually, I haven't said this to you yet, but the Burning Woman, is it called? Yeah, I need to buy that book and read that, and I'll probably get you back on to talk about that. I got a really strong intuitive hit about that. Well, just liked what it looked like. So I want to talk to Lucy about creativity. She's written 6 books, which is just so inspiring. So this lady knows creativity a lot more intimately than perhaps I do. So I want to talk about that. But first of all, I always start off, Lucy, by asking people, what is it that they really enjoy about being a sensitive?
I wish I'd had a really carefully planned answer for you. Do you know what immediately strikes me? Sex.
I love that. Nobody said that yet. So
sorry, but it's true. And that really feeds into my creativity because it kind of unblocks the creative flow in me. So I usually kind of find myself kind of scribbling away straight afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, being able to be open to pleasure as well as open to the things that overwhelm me in this life and upset me and all of that. There is the flip side that I'm open to probably more pleasure than the average person because of that. So yeah, ecstasy.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's that whole kind of being able to be really sensual and tactile and feeling things, and also like feeling things internally where, it can be quite noisy when it's the difficult aspect of being a sensitive, but I've never, that's a really succinct way of describing the pleasure aspect of it. And that's gorgeous, because I don't know that many people will think about it like that.
There we are.
Yeah.
I hadn't either until you asked me, and it was there.
Brilliant. Love it. Glad I didn't prep you. So I know, like, obviously one of the things that sensitives, we can feel really isolated, because it feels like everybody else has got their own lives to, sorted out, these hardy folk that just seem to be able to get on with it, and we can get knocked really quite easily. And there's a part on your website that I kind of just want to read out for everybody. And I love the fact that it's you understand how to get shit done, and I think we could talk for hours, because so many of my clients struggle with that, staying with something until they get to the completion, because it is just so noisy. But you've put, I know what it's like to be highly sensitive and underconfident, to struggle with depression and anxiety. I know completely. Please don't let that stop you for a second. It's making me want to cry this already. The way out is through creativity. We heal ourselves and all those whose lives we touch. This I know as truth. That through creativity we heal ourselves. Can you just talk me a little bit, first of all, through that journey? Because I think that intellectually we understand that creativity heals, but until we've actually experienced it, it's really hard to understand why or what happens.
Okay, so I guess first I want to start in the place of creativity, because for a lot of people they get hung up on that. What do I mean by creativity? And usually the kickback response is, I'm not creative, so she's not talking to me. And what people usually mean by that is, I'm not artistic.
That's me.
And, yeah, okay. Although you're sitting there with a beautiful painting behind you, so
I didn't do
you
that,
appreciate
though.
art.
Yeah, I do.
So you have that natural inbuilt connection to the creative. So when I say creativity, I am not necessarily talking about artisticness. What I am talking about is our connection to the life force which we express through ourselves. So we do this at all points in our day. We have opportunity after opportunity when we choose our clothes to wear in the morning, when we decide how we're going to plan our day, when we decide what book we're going to read, when we decide to write in our journals, when we decide what we're going to cook for dinner and how we're going to cook it. All of those are creative choices. They are choices where we take our energy and the world around us and we combine them.
Wow. Yeah.
And the creative choice and the creative act is that we do that consciously, so that we shape it consciously. We choose what we are going to do. We're not acting purely on the instruction somebody else has given to us. We're not acting based purely on fear. We are taking some part of ourselves and deciding to combine it with the outside world in an act of self-expression.
Okay. So there was something that you said really at the beginning of that, which is allowing the life force energy to flow through us in a way that is uniquely us, and that is creativity. And then it forms externally in all those different ways that you've said, and I love that. So that makes sense to me then, that the creativity is normally associated with the sacral center, which is, for me, the birth of our individuality. It's where we first start forming a sense of I. So to go back a little bit to the what I've just read off your blog post. So you've been through your own journey of helping you with your sensitivities through your creativity and art. And obviously, share what you want to share. I ask very nosy questions, so but no is always a good answer too. So could you share a bit of that journey, what that looked like for you and how creativity helped you?
Sure. So I was extremely creative at school. and I had a battle with my school because I was also very academic. So they wanted me to be their A student going to Oxford or Cambridge and all of that. And I wanted to do art and drama. So
Wow.
there was this kind of already there was this kind of dilemma and this choice between choosing the path of the mind and the path of social acceptance, and of prestige, and the path of self-expression and soul. And it was very much kind of put up that there was one or the other, and really the path of kind of soul and creativity was only there for people who weren't particularly intelligent. It was a kind of a lesser thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I instinctively knew that I could not be fully alive if I did not have creativity in my life. So I chose art for an A level, and I went on to drama school. And then I didn't know what it was at the time. What it was anxiety. Stopped me in my tracks. I got to the end of the first year of drama school, and I had these, what I would call waking visions, as well as nightmares, about going up onto stage and opening my mouth and no sound coming out.
Yeah.
Which obviously in a live performance situation is the absolute thing that cannot happen.
Bit tricky.
So I dropped out of drama school because I had been sick for a lot of the last term at drama school, which again, now I know was, stress related, anxiety related, because of the degree of being on show and projecting ourselves that was expected. They kind of have this approach where they break you down before they build you up. And for a highly sensitive person and a person who's quite strong-willed, it is a very challenging process. So I went on to do history of ideas and English literature. And although I directed a play at university, I basically shut down my creativity. I had got such a fright of what it meant to be in the spotlight, and to fail, to not be okay, to not be able to express myself, for that not to be acceptable, that I shut it down.
Okay.
So I then had my first child, age 25. I was doing my teacher training in English and drama. So I kept on the creative stuff, but teaching other people how to do it. It felt safer, but still the anxiety was sky high. And when I was pregnant, it got higher. But again, I still didn't know what this was that I was dealing with. But I knew that other people weren't dealing with that. The majority of the people in my course weren't curling up under desks and kind of like, in absolute terror in between lessons. They weren't doing that. So I didn't understand, because like I loved teaching. I was good at teaching, but I couldn't do it. The effect it had on my body was just out of all proportion. So I had my first child, and I remember feeling this kind of welling up of creativity in the last couple of months of pregnancy. And I started getting out some clay. My dad's a potter, my aunt's a potter. 3 generations back on both sides are self-employed creatives. And clay had always been something that I felt was my dad's stuff. I couldn't, and I got it out and I started sculpting these little kind of what I now know as goddess figurines. But I was totally not into goddesses then, didn't know anything about them, no interest, but they were little birthing goddess figurines, and drawing and painting, using a book called Birthing from Within, which is a really powerful way of using art therapy to prepare for pregnancy and birth. And I kind of got this little glimpse about how to get my creativity back. And I had my son, and I remember thinking, right, that's it, life's over now. Everything's going to be about him, and my life's finished. And I was 25, and that's quite a horrible thought to think. Ugh. what happens now for me. And I remember picking up The Artist's Way and starting trying to do that. And on one level, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And on another level, I just felt so frustrated by it because it was written by this woman who made no reference to the fact that you might have children who are taking up all your time and all your headspace and all your energy. How do you fit creativity in? You can't go off on an artist's date when you've got a small baby. You can't do morning pages when you've been woken up 6 times in the night. Like, how do you do it? So I happened to have another couple of babies then, so I had 3 kids in 4.5 years, and I really felt the doors just slam in front of my face.
Yeah.
And I went from, being high achieving, prize winning at university to suddenly stay at home mum in a world that doesn't really like women. And I was like, oh shit, now what do we do? So I remember, 3 children climbing over me, 1 breastfeeding, 2 of them, they all had chicken pox. And I was at home with, yeah, it was hell. At home, and just this idea just came to me, like, I've got to write now because I don't know how else I'm going to survive.
Yeah.
And this idea just came to me. I'd been reading a book, and she talked about the creative rainbow mother, and I was like, that idea speaks to me. Mm-hmm. So I went online, and I'm a bit of a research nerd, and I kind of started Googling and following and there were like 2 links to this archetype of the creative rainbow mother, and I was like, whoa, I need the information, I need it now. And there was nothing out there except for something on Leonie Dawson's page. Yeah. So I signed straight up to her creativity kind of, she's called it many things, it's an academy, and she had this thing about writing an ebook. And I had a little blog at that stage, which I occasionally showed up to in a very scared way. But I had a blog, and I was doing a little bit of work for Juno magazine, mm-hmm. to try and keep myself sane. Mm-hmm. And so she said about writing a promotional ebook to help make your blog bigger. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So she said, choose something that you're passionate about talking about. So I was like, okay, I'm passionate about cycles. I'm passionate, like, people always come to me asking to know more about charting and pregnancy and birth and cycles, because that's what I've been interested in. So I started writing a little ebook, and I showed it to a couple of people, and they were like, this needs to be a real book. I was like, okay, how do we do that? I feel like I've jumped a step with the creative rainbow mother thing. Yeah. I started writing about that too. So I just started researching, reading, intuiting, writing what I needed to know about this, because I couldn't find the information. So I created it from the little snippets I had from various places. So I genuinely can't remember the order of it now, but I decided that this was going to be the book I had needed when I was pregnant and having given birth to my son. And that's what all of my books have been. They've been what I needed and I couldn't find. Yeah. So anytime I get stuck, I write the book on it. Which means it's raw and real and authentic. Like, I'm never writing from the position of an expert. I'm writing from the position of a fellow traveler who is lost and needing a map and has various bits of insight and research and intuitive hits and mix it all together. So I sent off The Rainbow Way to my favorite publishers. And whilst it was going around, that's when I wrote. Okay, so that came first. That's when I wrote Moontime, which was my first book that ever came out on cycles, just to keep myself, again, kind of sane. And it's all to do with anxiety. It's how I stop myself from going completely crazy. Mm-hmm. Instead of just churning my wheels in my head, I churn my wheels onto paper.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the act of writing was helping you make sense of of all that was going on in your head, but it also created a flow, because anxiety, this is very simplistic, but anxiety is when we get stuck in a way of thinking as well, and we can't kind of make sense of it. So, I mean, my sense is it's almost like it kind of doing that knitted you back together, whereas that previous experience had kind of almost ripped you apart. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that was what was coming to me when you were saying it.
Totally. And also, this was a process that I was driving myself, whereas the process at university and drama school was very much somebody else deciding how they were going to shape me.
Right.
This was very much me deciding what was important to me, what I needed, and then how I could access it. And at the same time, it was me realizing that I wasn't in this situation alone, that there were a huge amount of other women out there who were in this process, but who maybe were a couple of steps behind me on the journey, who were also looking for this information and not finding it. So the two of those things together are what make my books. You know, it's that realization of the deep internal process that, because I'm highly sensitive, I'm more aware of than your average person, because of the way I've been brought up, my particular skills in this life. I have a way of being able to articulate that process and put words to it. And then it's the act of reaching out beyond myself to try and connect, because often in that process I feel very scared and very alone. So in the process of my books, I get to connect to a circle of women who are experiencing similar.
So I think you've made that's just such a story of courage and a real hero's journey. And you're obviously a way shower for the people that you work with as well. And there's some really key points that I think can get misunderstood with sensitive. So I have a question to clarify really first before I make my grand statement. But so I'm assuming that in your line of work now, there's and everything that you do, there's a lot of demands on your time, on your energy. It's not like you're highly sensitive and so you've got to retreat into this cave and not come out and never see the world again. See, and that's the thing, is like sometimes I think, now my own experience of being sensitive, the breakdown that came with the sensitivity, I thought I couldn't cope with life, and I was inherently made up wrong. And, the rest of my family and my brothers all were just like, get on with it and be bold. And I'm just like, I can't do that. But what I discovered is I can do that. I can do really big things. I can do really courageous things. I can be really strong. But the key to being sensitive, I think, is it's so important that it's got to be authentic. If it's not authentic, we can't do inauthenticity for very long. No. And that's the power.
Yeah, I can do about 2.5 minutes. And then I run and I hide.
Yeah, and that's what causes a lot of the breakdown and a lot of the anxiety, is because that our own source energy can't flow through us. And our system can't kind of cope with that. I mean, there's other dynamics as well, but I think that's something that I just really would like a lot of highly sensitive people to know, and that it's because authenticity is so important. We can't fake it and be that social self like a lot of people can. And we are
required by our culture. I mean, we live in a culture where you build a persona, you build a mask, and you hide behind that mask.
Yeah.
And that mask becomes the cipher for you. And you are not expected to show your authentic self in this world.
Yeah.
And so as highly sensitive people, we're kind of buggered, because we're going out in our authentic selves and we're being treated as though it were a persona, which, the persona things can bounce off it. Things don't bounce so easily off authenticity.
Yeah.
So, that is the real challenge, is, how to navigate the world. And I think you would like Burning Woman, because in that I go into huge depth into power and the feminine, and how we can step into our authentic power, and how we can navigate the world, which is built up on masculine traits and rewards masculinity, and how do we get to bring out this different sort of being in the world which has previously been punished and attacked, and how do we keep ourselves safe in the same time as we are becoming more and more authentic and powerful. Because the thing is, as a sensitive person, you know, the higher you go up, the more you get known in the world, the more people have access to you, the more places stuff can come from, the bigger the overwhelm can be, the bigger the call on your time, your energy. And so it is an up-leveling of kind of ability, but like it's challenging stuff. And it's not like you suddenly kind of grow a skin and that's that. You know, it.
Yeah, and the challenge for me, I think, I don't know if yours is the same, and I hear it from other people too, is the challenge is having the boundaries and saying no, because you, as a sensitive, you can feel where the other person's coming from, you can feel their positive intention, you can quite often see their potential, and I don't know how many times I have seen other people's potentials and assumed that they could too, and expected them to just step up into it, and they can't. In that moment. And so we can give all sorts of excuses for people's behaviour because we see and we feel the positive intention behind everything. And I think, you know, that's learning to not be nice, not be, you know, overly kind, and having those strong boundaries in order to protect that energy of ours. That's the challenge. I don't know if that is the challenge that you found.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things I've learned along the way. Well, firstly is boundaries of stuff coming into me. So, you know, there are places where I will engage with people and there are places that I won't. And I get to say that. I very much, because my anxiety has been extreme in the last couple of years, I haven't been able to do in-person stuff. I can do, you know, one-to-one like this. I can do online teaching. I can write. But in-person stuff is panic attacks all the way. So I know that I can't do that. I feel like as an author I should be able to, you know, but I can't. So that is where I am at. So it's having to accept your limitations on certain things and realize that things will change and develop. But there's often this a strong streak of perfectionism and kind of desire not to be different in us, and think, well, if everyone else is doing it, I should be able to. And actually, you know, there are times when, yes, we do need to push ourselves and challenge ourselves. And there are times when we really need to respect that actually I can't do this right now. And to find other ways, you know. And the other thing, you know, is I'm not good at, I'm a very much a lone wolf. I like to do things by myself. I'm not particularly good at kind of teamwork and, you know, but I now have a couple of people working alongside me, and I have to learn to let go of stuff and say, yep, they will deal with it, and they will do it, you know, to a great, they won't do it the same as I will do it, but they'll do it in their way. And, you know, a lot of the time their way is better than my way, because their way isn't getting all personally, emotionally involved. Their way is kind of cleaner and clearer, and what, you know, there are different ways of doing things, and my way doesn't have to always be the way, and I don't always have to do things. So offloading the overwhelm, and learning that saying no to some things is important so that we can say yes to other things.
And that sense of, you know, the sense of belonging is really important for sensitives too, because we've felt so different. And I mean, the whole idea of this this podcast is because I think we feel like that because we are here to build a different way and to build a different world. But it's also about what I would like to go on to next is your most recent book, because I think that sense of belonging is not just about finding your tribe or, you know, hopefully the people that are in the Facebook group that go with this, we're starting to collect a tribe together. It's not just about that kind of belonging, but it's belonging to yourself as well. And that is about finding, like you've said, your own ways of working, your own, you know, your own rhythms and your own cycles. And I know your book, Full Circle Health, your latest book, yay! There she is. There
Which
she
matches
is.
your picture.
It does. So resonant. So resonant. So, and I know that this is about promoting your own rhythm, your own cycles, and working with well, I'm assuming. Do you want to tell us what it's about and how it can help bring a sense of belonging to yourself?
It is, yeah. And not just belonging to yourself, although that is key and crucial, but also seeing yourself as embedded in the world around and beyond you. So often when we think about our health, we can get very into just what's wrong with me, what's wrong with my body, what's going wrong, and look inside. And we're not looking at how it is connected to the environment around us, how it is connected to the seasons, how it's connected to, say, the lunar cycle, how it's connected to, the dynamics that are going on around us in our relationships. So what Full Circle Health is doing is asking us what happens when we look at ourselves as integrated beings, integrated not only into the world beyond us, but also the integration of all of the different aspects of our beings. So for those of us who have a menstrual cycle, the influence of the menstrual cycle on the rest of our health. For those who have autoimmune conditions, the impact of those symptoms on other aspects of their lives. For those who are kind of aware of their dreams, the impact of the dream cycle on our waking consciousness. What is the interaction between what's happening when we're asleep and our knowing and abilities then, and what's happening in our waking life? How is our menstrual cycle interacting with our dream cycle? So how are all of these different cycles in which we are engaged and involved, mainly involuntarily, how are they all interacting? So what it's asking you to do is, for some women, the idea of charting their menstrual cycle is brand new. They've never done that. They know that, in about a week's time, I'm going to need to have some tampons ready. That's all they know. For other women, they have been charting their menstrual cycle for years, as a way of either conception or contraception. And some people have put together their menstrual cycle with the lunar cycle. But what this is asking is that you put together all of the different aspects of your physical, spiritual, and emotional health in one place. You get to see them on paper. So you are charting your experience of your body and your world each day. And you've then got access to all of this information that otherwise previously would have just been, you would be ignoring, the seizing up of your neck, and the fact that it's day 25 of your cycle, and the fact that it's full moon, and the fact that you only got 3 hours sleep last night. You might not take all that information into account, but suddenly, in taking note of all of that information on a daily basis and then reviewing it on a monthly basis, suddenly you're able to see the patterns and the connections and the links between these different aspects of yourself and your health and the cycles in which that you inhabit.
Wow, that sounds really powerful, and like you give people a central core way of experiencing themselves, examining themselves and understanding themselves. And there's two parts that are coming up for me, because I know in our community we've got people that are really interested in the link between dream and awake, and maybe traveling to different dimensions when you're sleeping and what that's about. I've never heard the link between cycles and dreams. Could you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's something that I have been exploring for several years. And so the first thing that you will probably find, if you start charting your dreams every day, the main images and the themes that come up in your dreams, is that during ovulation, that there are certain images and themes which are recurrent there. So on a most basic level, obviously ovulation is when we can get pregnant.
Yeah.
So the libido rises. So you're most likely to have erotic dreams at that point. You're also most likely to have erotic dreams just before your period.
Right.
Also, images like egg images, white images, will come through more in ovulation times, whereas coming up to and the first day of menstruation, there will be more likely to be red symbolism, flowers, red roses, flooding, water images, that sort of thing. And then at the transition points in the cycle, so where it goes from ovulation into premenstrual, is a very powerful change of kind of dynamic. And it's not just an energetic thing. I mean, it's hormonal. It's the change of hormones is causing this in our bodies. But that transition point, again, can have very powerful images, often to do with change, transition. So it might be your teeth falling out. It might be having to change buses or run for a car, something like that. So learning these messages that are coming through to us about these changing, shifting points in our cycles is really useful. And then also that at the same time in the cycle each month, we might get a little bit more information about a certain theme or idea or a teaching that we're receiving through our dreams.
Yeah.
And then finally, just that during menstruation and usually the day or two leading up to it, we are in a much more visionary state as women. And they gather together their dreams to help to guide their tribe.
Can you just repeat that again, because you froze a little bit, so you're just freezing a bit. so I got I just didn't get the last couple of sentences that you said.
Yeah, just that in many native traditions, so Aboriginal in Australia, in the US, there, and in Latin American shamanic cultures, there is this tradition of really honoring the menstruating woman. And so the women would gather at that point and share their dreams, gather the information. Understanding that comes through with this powerful dreaming time is powerful not only for that woman but for her whole culture.
Right. So in a sense then that's almost like, channeling. That time as our lives is when we are a powerful channel. So I get the idea. I can recognize completely. I used to have what I call period headaches, and I only get them now if there's something really powerful going on in my life that I'm not paying attention to. If there's an unresolved kind of tension. And I've noticed that more recently that I don't sleep well at a full moon, and kind of knowing that that's what it is lets me embrace that and just prepare for it and be okay with that. So I understand that, and I'm wondering if there's, with all the noticing of the rhythms and the cycles, I can understand that I might be able to take care of my health better and prepare for when my energy might ebb and flow. I'm also hearing that I might be able to recognise patterns that will inform me of major themes going on maybe in my unconscious that are trying to get into my conscious. I'm just wondering if there's something else that, after we charter all these and we've got all that information, how else it can support us or help us, maybe in ways that I can't see at the moment.
Well, I think the main thing is in terms of health management, be it physical or mental health. So when you are charting symptoms that come up every day, when you're charting the effects that medication is having on you, so, you can see, okay, on this day I took this amount of medication, on this day I dropped the amount of medication, I had these symptoms. You're able to piece together your physical and mental health in a way that often we kind of hand over our health to health experts, our doctors or health professionals, and our bodies kind of become, and our brains also become medicalized. And so this is a way of kind of taking ownership of what is going on in our physical and mental beings and tracking it. So that often when you're tracking your health using health charting, what you're able to see is little symptoms, little kind of triggers, small things as they emerge before they get into a full-blown panic attack or a
Yeah.
full-blown migraine or a
Right.
full-blown, your blood sugar, if you're a diabetic, kind of going totally out of control. Suddenly you're seeing, oh, hang on a second, that and that happened this day. It also happened that day. And 3 days later, whatever happened. So suddenly you're seeing the connection between that, and then you're able to feed that back into management of your health. So you go, okay, I need to be aware that if 2 of these things have happened, that I don't do the third, because otherwise in 3 days' time I'm going to be very sick. So it's helping you to build health-making habits into your life by receiving the feedback that your body is giving you and being able to reflect on your body's communications, its symptoms, all the things that are going into your body, all the things that are coming out of your body, and see whether you're kind of on a health-making cycle in terms of your physical and mental health, or actually if what you're doing is in some way sabotaging your own physical and mental health.
Yeah.
So it's about building healthy habits as well as simply tracking the information.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm hearing that we can start listening to the whispers so that we don't have to start shouting. The symptoms are kind of like the shouts.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking that, like, from a personal point of view, that could really help with intuitive eating, which is my next step. And part of the work that I do in my mentorship, with my mentorship clients, is helping people with their relationship with food and their relationships with body. And I've had my own, journey with bulimia and overweight and all that kind of stuff now. And I'm thinking that, the health, absolutely. And like you've just said, it could be physical health or it could be mental health in terms of anxiety, but also then just really fine tuning our intuitive knowing of ourselves.
Yeah. But also, things like pregnancy and postpartum, charting your symptoms through pregnancy, learning to connect better with your body during the pregnancy. Right. The same with postpartum. For a lot of women, building self-care into their routines is really hard, but especially when they've got a small baby. So, using it as a habit builder of being able to kind of set yourself 8 self-care goals that you're going to have each day, and how many of these have I managed to achieve, tracking your energy throughout the day, tracking your how many naps you've managed to have during the day, how many hours sleep. So I know what I'm telling you is a huge amount of information, but it is the whole point of it as a tool is that it tells you how to use it for all of these different needs, and then you assess what your personal needs are, and then there is a structured charting tool which helps you to track whatever it is you decide you need to track at this moment. And if that then changes, you can use it to track something else. So it's not trying to just kind of keep you into one little box, because often with menstrual charting, there is a menstrual chart that you use and that's that, whereas this is taking all different aspects of your health that you could focus on and want to focus on, and providing a tool to be able to do that.
You must have poured a lot of work and planning into this, really. Yeah. So it's really exciting. And so I'm quite a practical kind of girl. So if I was thinking about getting your book, which I really genuinely am listening to you, what's the planning bit like? How does that, and again, I don't know if this is like an appropriate question, but how does that show up here? Do I have a chart? Do I have in the book, do I have a diagram, and do I tick? I like to see
I'm not
things.
sure how well you can see that.
Yeah,
so you've got your chart page here, which has lots of different ways and places of charting different information, which the first part of the book explains how to do.
Right.
And then you have a journaling page on the opposite side, which is more word or image based for, so for example, dream images that come up. It might be what happened in the day. It might be, there's lots of journaling prompts in here to help you to focus on different aspects of your health and well-being. So you might choose to do a journaling prompt each day.
Right.
So it's broken down into that. And then at the end of each month, there are about 15 pages for transferring the information then that you have.
See, I'm a spreadsheet kind of girl. I'm liking this.
Yeah. So you can transfer all this information and find the patterns, find the insight into it, and then help you plan forward for the next month ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's on one level, it's a very simple tool, and in another level, it's very complex and practical and flexible. So it's kind of, my hope is, like, we've had beta readers giving us their feedback, endorsers giving their feedback, and the feedback has been that they have never found something like this, and that it is very intuitively easy to use, but complex enough to contain all the information that they need to. And the guidance at the beginning helps them to know how to do it. Because I specifically didn't talk to anybody. I just gave them the book and said, right, do it, see how it works.
Okay.
And yeah.
So my final question for you then is, how did all that come to you through writing the book? How did it just land? Did you practice, have you practiced on yourself? Kind of, how did all of that come to you?
Okay, so I've been menstrual charting since I was a teenager.
Wow.
I've been charting.
Unusual. Yeah.
I had really, really painful cycles. I'd faint every month.
Wow.
So I needed to deal with it. I needed to figure out what was going on, and I didn't like the medication the doctor put me on, so I had to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I've been charting my cycles against the moon for about 5 years, I'd say. And then the rest of the tools were things that I developed for myself in my own journals. But as I say at the beginning, I had, my menstrual charting journal, I had my lunar diary, I had my habit tracking sheet, I had my normal journals, I had my health tracking. Like, there were so many bits and pieces, and it was like, ugh! And I couldn't integrate any of them because they were all separate.
Yeah.
So it came from, I was working on, we had a charting journal last year, it was the first year, and we're having it again this year for Womancraft, called Moon Dreams, which is a lunar menstrual charting journal, but just like a diary. So there's a week to 2 pages.
Yeah.
And I was starting work on that, and I was like, oh, but I want to write my dreams in here, and oh, I need to write my health in, and oh, how do I fit it all in? So I was stuck on my next book, which is called Medicine Woman, which is all about women's health and women's health and women's healing, basically, in and from a patriarchal world.
Right.
And I got a bit stuck, and I was really, really struggling with anxiety, and Donald Trump was coming into power, and it was just like the world was falling apart in my life.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought, I can't write that anymore. I need to really get connected to my physical health, which was falling apart, my mental health, which was really ropey. I need to figure out how to do this, and Moon Dreams isn't providing the amount of space that I need to do that. So I got all of my tools that I'd figured out before, and I tried to figure out how do I put them all together so I can really get a sense of what it basically is for me. And it doesn't have to be for other people. It can just purely be a health charting thing, end of story. You don't need to be into any woo-woo fluffy, But for me, it is my way of contacting and seeing the deep feminine within.
Yeah.
So, which I experienced through my cycles, which I experienced through the lunar shifts, which I experienced through my dreams.
Yeah.
How do I see and feel and get contact with that every day? Because, the world doesn't give me a tool for how to do that.
Yeah.
But when I am in contact with that cyclical way of being, I am far healthier and happier and more balanced than when I'm not. So it's how do I find a way to be in contact with it every day?
Yeah. And when I was tuning into your energy before the interview, you struck me as being, really earthed and grounded, and I think it's kind of like you obviously experience yourself differently. Well, yeah, that was my sense of you. And a few years ago, when I first started with pagan groups that working with the cycles and the sabbats really connected me more fully. And a lot of my tribe of starseeds, we're really good in other dimensions and we're really good up and out there, but being here and seeing the dimensions here can be a real challenge, and feeling safe and secure here can feel like a real challenge. And I can see how that working with those cycles just kind of, it is like working with the sabbats, and anything like that really connects you to that, what you're saying, that deep feminine.
Sorry, I take my laugh back. I don't experience myself as a grounded person. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right in that a lot of people write me off as woo-woo because they find what I talk about uncomfortable.
See, to us, it's not woo, it's real. So you're all right, yeah.
But to me, everything I do has to be integrated and has to be grounded into the real world, the here and now. I'm not ever happy to stand over, and it's not just with my work, with anything that I publish too. It has to have a soul element to it. It has to be, one foot in the transcendent, in the archetypal, in the other realms, but the other foot has to be firmly rooted in this place that we inhabit, because we can't just be flying off there. We're in these bodies, whether we like it or not, we're in them. So we've got to figure out how to live with them and harness their energy and live with that in balance and in harmony with it, rather than constantly fighting ourselves. And as women, we aren't taught how to do that. And so we are doing constant battle with what is completely natural to us. So, that is my hope for Full Circle Health, is that it gets women into a daily habit and space where they can reconnect with their cyclical selves, with their wisdom, with their ways of knowing, with their bodies, with their physical bodies here, and with their spiritual soul level. Both bits.
Yeah, perfect. So for those of us that want to buy your book, where's the best place to get it, and where can we find you on the internet? And I can put these in the show links as well.
Okay, well, when's this going out?
This will be going out next week.
Okay, so the book is currently on pre-order.
Right.
So it is officially published on the 9th of June.
Okay.
You can pre-order it until the 30th of May over on womancraftpublishing.com, where you get your signed copy before anybody else, and you also get bonus exclusive audio downloads and a PDF of the book, so that you can print off all of the extra charting sheets.
Oh, brilliant.
So we've decided that we will be selling the extra charting sheets, but that will be a purchase thing. So you are getting it free with your purchase.
Okay.
And we're also, because of our beta readers, we're putting together a 3-month workbook of just the charting thing, so that once you have read and understood, kind of how to do it, you've got pages that are bound to. So you can get it from us direct then, and then from the 9th of June, it's available from Amazon, Book Depository, anywhere online, and any bookshop to order. You just need to take in the ISBN or the title and say, I want to order it from you.
Ah, right, okay. But it sounds like it'd be a good idea to jump on board now and pre-order it then as well. So I'll put all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much. It's been a really nourishing conversation talking to you. And I wish you, really good luck with the book.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.